Well, look, I believe the Republican Party has been losing now for nearly 7 years. After Donald Trump's win in 2016, which I was a large part of, we haven't been able to win anything since then. Lost the House in 2018, lost the Senate and the White House in 2020, those Georgia Senate seats in early 21, and we horribly underperformed in 2022. Lost governorships, lost the Senate seat, and barely won the House of Representatives when everyone thought we'd be at 240 or 250 seats.
Red wave.
So we're tired of losing. And look, if the person at the top gets all the credit when things go well, they also must be accountable for what happens when things go badly.
It looks like the GOP presidential field is filling out a little bit, and who knows how to fill things out better than Chris Christie, the former New Jersey governor, now working for ABC News. I wonder if he's going to continue getting paid for ABC News, seeing how he's going to be doing the same thing on the campaign trail that he's been doing from the desk there at ABC, and that is whining about Donald Trump. He starts off this interview with Fox and Friends the other day by talking a little bit about how the nation is small. And the host sort of goaded him into talking about Donald Trump, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden. Just check this out. It's pretty interesting.
All right, GOP presidential candidate Chris Christie joins us now, just hours after being done with Bret Baier. I know you're so glad to be done with that interview because you were looking forward to this one, Governor.
Absolutely,
more than
guys.
anything else. We watched you for 2 hours do your town hall, the town hall style. Did you go back and evaluate your 2016 approach? And what can we expect different in your 2020 approach? Number one, it was noteworthy you weren't in Iowa.
No, look, we're going to focus on New Hampshire because I really believe that, given the dynamics up in New Hampshire, that there's a place for us to really make a case.
Is there any instance where somebody ignored one of the states and then came in and won the other one? I don't know. I'm not suggesting it doesn't work. I don't recall that being a thing. I remember, was it Santorum that skipped two of the states and then went down to South Carolina or something, and it didn't work out. Man, I could be wrong on who it was, but it just seems very weird not to play every game you're in. I think you need someone who's going to do that. Chris Christie says he's not doing that. He's hanging out in New Hampshire, so that doesn't make any sense to me, but we'll continue.
And so, not that we won't focus on Iowa or spend any time there, but we're going to really spend most of our time in New Hampshire. And frankly, guys, I think this is a national race from the beginning. What we need to do is to focus the country again on whether we want to make our country a big, populous, and successful country, or whether we want to continue to be small and continue to divide the country into smaller and smaller parts. That's not what I want America to be, and that's why I'm running.
Right, and we heard you say live from New Hampshire that you blame the smallness on Barack Obama, on Joe Biden, and on Donald Trump as well. But, in watching what you were saying, Governor, you get the feeling that you're obviously in it to win it, and good luck to you, but it sounds like you're trying to save the Republican Party.
I don't even like this questioning from Peter Doocy. Steve Doocy in this particular case. I don't like this questioning because it's like the Republican Party needs saving from itself. No, the Republican Party is doing exactly what it wants to do. They're deciding who they want to vote for, and a lot of them are deciding Donald Trump. You can't save those people. You convince those people. And if you're trying to save the Republican Party, well, congratulations. You're now branding yourself as the establishment. So I don't like this question, but maybe Chris Christie thinks that's what he's supposed to be doing.
Well, look, I believe the Republican Party has been losing now for nearly 7 years. After Donald Trump's win in 2016, which I was a large part of, we haven't been able to win anything since then. Lost the House in 2018, lost the Senate and the White House in 2020, those Georgia Senate seats in early 21, and we horribly underperformed in 2022. Lost governorships, lost the Senate seat, and barely won the House of Representatives when everyone thought we'd be at 240 or 250 seats.
Red wave.
Nothing he's saying there is wrong. I've made that case 1,000 times on my radio show, and I would even go out of my way to point out that in 2016, Donald Trump underperformed members of the Senate and gubernatorial candidates across the state who ran in the same states he did, with the exception of North Carolina. They had some transgender bathroom thing going on there at the time. But I will point out that Chris Christie's right. The Republican Party has been doing pretty poorly in elections since Donald Trump won that election. And that election could have gone a little bit better. I think any of those candidates would have beat Hillary Clinton Hillary Clinton was the worst presidential candidate to ever exist. Donald Trump's the second worst presidential candidate to ever exist. And Joe Biden's the third worst presidential candidate to ever exist. So 2 beats 1, 3 beats 2. That's really as simple as I can make it. Right now, it'd be nice to have someone run that you can actually say, hey, I really want to support this guy. And guess what? Trump has a lot of people saying that about him. Not me in particular. I begrudgingly voted for him multiple times. But either way, he does have people who are very excited about him and fired up and believe in him.
So we're tired of losing. And look, if the person at the top gets all the credit when things go well, they also must be accountable for what happens when things go badly. And the fact is that Donald Trump, the candidates he picked in these individual states and endorsed, all lost.
100% true. Well, not 100% true. Pretty true. He endorsed a lot of people who were uncontested and were in runaways. That is true. Not many cases I can think of where he endorsed and his candidate won in the general election in a close race. Not 100% true, but pretty true. Chris Christie is saying the truth here.
And it lost big races. And so I'm not trying to save the party. What I want the party to get back to doing is what we do best, which is to win and then implement smart conservative policies for the entire country.
Say that then. That's the correct answer. It's not about saving the Republican Party. It's about smart policies and finding the right people. That's the message that the Republican Party should be kind of pushing right now. But right now we're in the middle of, again, another round of personal attacks and trying to figure out a way to get Donald Trump's voters without upsetting Donald Trump's voters. And that seems to be a hard thing to do right now. Chris Christie is trying to thread that needle. I don't think he's the guy, but it's interesting to watch.
If there's someone out there watching and they're undecided, look at all those faces that are in the race,
11.
Many to choose from. Why should they pick you?
You know, I've been tested, Ainsley. I've been tested throughout my entire career, governing in a very blue state, as Steve knows from being part of it.
Yep.
A million more Democrats than Republicans, yet was reelected with 61% of the vote, 51% of the Hispanic vote, and nearly a quarter of the African American vote. Those are the kind of things we need to do to win again. And we win that way. Mm-hmm. We're going to bring in Republican majorities and significant ones, preserve the one in the House, get a new Republican majority in the Senate, and then we can go about doing the things we need to do to improve health care in the country, to go after this inflation and this crazy spending that's been going on, to make sure we fix the immigration problem once and for all, and make sure we have a secure border where fentanyl is not pouring over it each and every day. Yeah. You need a law enforcement person, someone who understands how to make sure we can work with the police to make the streets of our cities and our towns safe again. It's gone completely down the drain under Joe Biden. And those are the kind of things you need. You need someone who's been experienced and who knows how to do this and govern in a place that's difficult. Because if we know one thing about Washington, it is always going to be a difficult place to govern.
Governor.
So Chris Christie comes around on all of this. He does. I got to give him credit. He comes around after, I think, missing the boat on some of this. So give him some credit for that. I think that he makes a pretty good point. And I think what Chris Christie is saying here is we've got to get away from the idea that Republicans are all Trumpists. Republicans need to be Republicans and have Republican ideas and run on those ideas, conservative ideas mostly, and get away from the sort of this cult of personality thing. It's going to be hard to do. It is. The Republican Party is Trump world right now. At least 50%, I believe, will gladly vote for Donald Trump. I think another 40% will reluctantly, or I guess, vote for him. And 10% will have a real hard time voting for him. So Chris Christie's right about all of this and the number of losses and all these other things. But how do you get back on track? Can you do it with Donald Trump? Well, Donald Trump seems to undercut conservative policies on a regular basis. That seems to be a bit of the problem. But if the other candidates, I think, focus on that kind of stuff, maybe you chip away at Donald Trump. But this is going to be a hard one. I don't think Chris Christie's the guy, but he's not wrong. And I think more Republicans should talk like this and lay out why exactly Republicans have had a hard time over the last couple of years. It's not because their policies are bad. Trump's policies were good. It was solely about the guy at the top and his personality and how repulsive it was to independents and to Democrats after 2016. He won 2016. Another Republican candidate probably would have done better, but that's a discussion for another day. After that, it's all been downhill for Republicans, and it's because they've made it all about Donald Trump. I will say this again, and I will repeat this all until the 2024 election comes up. If this next election is about Joe Biden, he will lose. If this election is about Donald Trump, he will lose. So the point there is Joe Biden versus almost any of these Republicans, Joe Biden's going to lose. If Donald Trump is the nominee, he's probably going to lose. We've already seen this fight once. Donald Trump hasn't done a single thing that you think would gain him general election voters. So I think at the end result of this is pretty obvious to see. But keep that in mind. That's what everyone said in 2016 as well, including me.